Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's Tour Catch Up,
Team Europe edge out Team World in the Laver Cup.
Gauff splits with Coach Gilbert.
And Rafael Nadal is announced for the Davis Cup Final 8 in Malaga.
Kim, Chris, today is the 24th of September, and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. We're back. We are back. We're back for our first post New York catch up as we head into the Asian swing of things on the tour. But in the meantime, we've had Laver Cup success again for Team Europe. Coco Gauff breaking up with Brad Gilbert. And the Davis Cup Final 8 is set for Malaga, including a certain Rafa Nadal announced for the Spanish team. More on that in a bit. But guys, as we head to Asia, I'm sort of sad. You know, we have no more Grand Slam tennis to look forward to in the season. However, I'm excited at the prospect of the fact that we've got a lot more tennis to come. Beijing is around the corner, which is just a mammoth tournament, a 1,500 combined. And also, it's a much better time zone for us Brits than New York City.
I haven't even worked that out. What time is it there now, Joel? Do you know?
It's good for my time zone and my sleeping habits, I think I would say.
So if
They're
you're a
8
late
hours
night owl,
ahead, I think.
so that
I'm
would
not
mean,
sure.
oh, that's quite nice. You can watch it on an evening. So much easier generally. But I was just thinking, it's been a long time since we've done one of these guys, a regular tour catch up. I'm not looking forward to the quiz, but I am looking forward to talking about a variety of tennis issues, not just the Grand Slams.
And Joel's been on holiday, I think. You were watching
Wonderful
tennis
tan, yeah.
from abroad, Joel, is that right?
Yes, I got sunburnt on my foot. I lathered up the
On
Factor
your
50.
foot.
Yeah, I know. You know, when you expect like your
line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've got some bad, dodgy tan lines on my feet, but yeah, the Factor 50 was well and truly applied, and I couldn't escape tennis because you know when you go to a hotel in a foreign country, you're always kind of wondering what channels are on the TV in your language, and I didn't get Laver Cup with English commentary, but I did get it on German Eurosport.
Where were you,
That's-
Joel?
Was it Turkey?
Turkey with German commentary.
Yes, there were lots of different channels going on, but yeah, there was some
Wow.
German. For some reason, there was German Eurosport, so I was watching a
That's
bit
commitment.
a bit of Laver Cup. Yes, whilst
You're
doing some
recovering
bit of
from your
R&R.
sunburn.
Sunburn foot.
Yeah,
Whilst putting
applying
aloe
the
vera.
Yeah.
yeah,
on
whilst
your foot.
applying the after sun. Exactly.
I mean, tennis you can watch in any language, fortunately, which is great. I mean, the Laver Cup, we'll get onto that in a bit, but is it right? Anna Wintour was in attendance, you know, and obviously Federer was there. So some very swanky, fashionista kind of vibes happening. Obviously,
Where was
the
my
Laver
invite?
Cup. Well,
You were in
I
Turkey.
don't know if Joel, you were in the same
Yes.
criteria as those two individuals, but yeah, Anna Wintour did I think a coin toss. Is that right?
Yeah, I saw this, and this was actually my fun.
In German, could you tell what was happening, Joel?
No, I couldn't. I don't think Ben Shelton knew what was going on either. But this was my fun, kind of moment from the week. Although I will say special mention because one of my favorite players, Pablo Cuevas, announced his retirement today. Apparently, so that gets an honorary mention. But yes, Anna Wintour, Vogue creator, was at the Laver Cup, adding a bit of glitz and glam. She was on the court to do a coin toss with Ben Shelton and Daniel Medvedev, and it was a little bit of an awkward exchange because they did the photo, and Ben Shelton was on the other side of the net, and Anna Wintour looked at Ben Shelton to be like, "Oh, hang on, why don't you just jump over the net and join me on the side with Medvedev?" And he was like, yeah, not sure about that. And for a split second, I was kind of like wondering if, yeah, Shelton was ready to sort of do a jump up with his knees and get over to the other side.
Or we could do a Fosbury flop over
Yes.
it, you know, high jump or scissor kick.
A scissor kick, a
action.
forward roll. You could even try one of
Probably
those.
Injure himself before the match even started, all thanks to Anna Wintour. But yeah, that was a slight misunderstanding on her part. I think she soon realised. But Chris, what's been your kind of highlight of the week?
Well, I was also going to say something slightly Anna Wintour related because I was watching a video and it was Roger Federer and Mirka Federer and then Anna Wintour. And Merca, no reaction. We're used to that. Watch when she's seen Roger in all sorts of situations. And some point happened, and Anna and Roger kind of came to life. And people were saying, if you're Merca, should you feel a bit jealous because of how into the tennis they were together? But they are besties. So I think she must be super close to the game. I do know she starts every day with tennis at like the 5 a.m. club or something. So maybe we can give a bit of a few tips to Team World for next year. But one thing I have to add, everyone's favorite tennis spectator isn't Anna Wintour, it is Barbora Krejcikova, who actually was playing tennis with the tournament director at the Thailand Open and also courtside, but she didn't even play the tournament. So
amazing.
That is commitment to watching tennis. She was just there to watch maybe her opposition get into gear. It's giving Vondrousova at the Como Challenger watching Kei Nishikori earlier in the year.
Love it.
A very deep cut there.
I mean, was she just having a nice holiday in Thailand?
Probably. I think she's done it. Yeah. I mean, a bit like Joel in Turkey.
Yeah. She was, choosing to
following the tour, but having a holiday at the
watch
same
it
time,
rather than having German commentary instead.
Yes.
I mean, I was wondering if she was, brought her Lego set with her on her week off, perhaps. I don't know. But I did think of her the other day because I actually played with some Lego myself. And I thought,
what were you building?
See why Barbora likes it so much. Well, it was kind of like a work thing, so I had to build myself.
You built yourself out of Lego.
Build yourself out of Lego.
Wow. We're gonna have to post this on the socials if you have a picture.
It was a sort of training thing, but I won't bore our listeners with that.
But did it come out well?
It was
on a scale of 1 to the Wimbledon trophy in Lego.
Were you thinking you needed Krejcikova's expert Lego help?
I think so. Although she seems to follow the models, this was more of a sort of
make it up as you go along.
Rogue kind of improvisation.
Use your imagination.
A bit more conceptual. Yeah, modern art Lego. But actually, I want to say one thing we didn't cover because we didn't record last week. Obviously, we had our lovely Andy Murray episode released instead, which I hope listeners have all enjoyed. And if you haven't listened to it, do listen back to it now. But I thought Soné Cartel's victory,
fantastic,
at the Jasmine Open, first WTA title for obviously Soné Cartel, young British player, very good prospect for the future. She came through qualifying, got to the final, beat Rebecca Stramkova in straight sets, her very first WTA Tour title. So definitely worth a mention on today's episode because big well done to her. Really fantastic stuff. Joel, did you manage to catch any of this on your travels at all? She is actually half Turkish, Soné Cartel.
Is that right? Oh, I didn't know.
Her dad is from Turkey.
That is incredible knowledge, Kim.
Yeah, I wasn't, but I did notice that we had a lot of sort of success in what I would say the British fringes with Cartel and
fringes.
Well, sounds like a festival.
Yeah,
but also Fernley as well for the men also did quite well that week
on the Challenger Tour. Yes,
we'll get onto it in the second half. A lot better than the big guns in the GV Davis Cup qualifying.
Yes, indeed. That is true. But I mean, I thought it was great. I think when you see this sort of opportunity, it's so rare that a player really does just grab it with both hands. And she really did.
This is the time to do it as well. Like post US Open.
Well, when Elise Mertens gets eliminated, that's her title, isn't it? The one she always wins. So if she's out, then someone else has to do it. Why not Soné?
Absolutely. And before we get on to this week's action, last week's action, I should say, just a bit of a TV kind of tip for everyone. There's a new drama that's been released called Apples Never Fall. For those of you in the UK, it's on BBC iPlayer. Sam Neill stars, but it's based on a book and it's very much tennis themed.
Like Wimbledon, Lizzie Bradbury's coach dad.
Lizzie Bradbury's dad, but he is now playing a tennis coach in this drama. And it's basically a sort of family thriller mystery, but it's set around a family they have like a tennis academy.
Oh, fun.
So if you're looking for a tennis themed thriller, this is a new one. So check it out.
What was the name of that one again?
Apples Never Fall.
Apples Never Fall, but I'll add it to my watch list, that's for sure.
Yes, I've read the book. It's good. So we'll see. But anyway, moving on to the Laver Cup, because we did have quite a thrilling final day, I think it's fair to say, in Berlin for the action for this year's rendition of the Laver Cup. Carlos Alcaraz winning that final rubber to clinch victory for Team Europe. So they won 13-11 over Team World. So it kind of came down to Alcaraz against Taylor Fritz, with Alcaraz winning in straight sets, giving Team Europe, well, their first win since 2021, actually. So for the last version of the Laver Cup with Borg and McEnroe as the captains, Borg has managed to get another title before he heads off. Earlier in the day, Sasha Zverev did win to sort of ensure that it went on further to keep Team Europe in it. So yeah, big final day effort from Zverev, from Alcaraz. But what did you guys make of the Laver Cup as a whole? Obviously, the last day was, quite exciting, but it was an event that we thought Rafa was going to be at. He wasn't able to play in the end, so perhaps some lowered expectations. But what did you make of this year's rendition of it overall? Did it match up to what you were expecting? Was it one for the ages, or more of a forgettable encounter?
I was impressed with how competitive Team World were, because if you think about the number of top 10 players Team Europe have, I was almost expecting this to be like a steamroll situation for them. But for World to come so close, and be very close to getting over the finish line, I think it shows that there is a rivalry and there is a competition there. Because I think a few editions ago we were sort of thinking, man, this is just Europe's to lose every time. The balance is too imbalanced. But now I think this edition, particularly to me, has shown that actually it feels a lot more 50-50 than perhaps you might think about on looking at it on a piece of paper.
There've been a lot of quite anticlimactic results when it's come to this. I think we said 5 in a row to get it started, and the last 2 have gone the other way. So hopefully there'll be a bit more of a battle each time. I did think, and I know this is a big talking point generally around the prices to go to this event.
Yes.
I looked at the order of play for the first day, and it was Casper Ruud, Cerundolo, Tsitsipas, Kokkinakis, Dimitrov, Tabila, and I just thought, these are quarterfinals of maybe a 250, a 500. It doesn't feel necessarily Laver Cup worthy in terms of those singles matches. Obviously, there was a big one with Alcaraz and Zverev, Fritz and Shelton, I think was the doubles that was played that day. But is the hype way above, what they can deliver from a ticket price and an experience and a competition perspective? Or do you think the fact it was close justified the excitement a bit more and the very hefty tickets?
I think the closest of it to me, first of all, like legitimizes it more as a actual competition and gets it like a little bit further away from like think of it as just a glorified exhibition. But having said that, I think with the ticket prices, I think the problem with announcing having Nadal play and then drop out last minute, you're going to get people who are going to pay big money to go and see that potentially, especially given that we don't know when he's going to stop playing tennis. But because he did drop out, it did, I think, bring in the cost and the amounts that people are paying into focus. Because on social media, I saw a lot of fans, a lot of spectators being like, hang on, I was promised Nadal and I want a refund. And I get that when you buy your tickets, you're never guaranteed action, however, by whatever play it is. However, I do sort of side with them in the fact that there's big risk there is big reward, but it didn't really turn out the way I think the Laver Cup organisers maybe would have envisaged it.
I think the fact we're still having this debate kind of every year, like, oh, does it justify its billing, kind of leads us to question, whether it was.
It's not on our hit list, is it, Kim?
It was always set up, I think, with the idea of, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic being in attendance. And when you take those out of the equation, I think there's just always question marks. Probably, very different if Alcaraz and Sinner are involved, going forwards, and they've, if their rivalry kind of continues and extends. And like Joel said, we've got the kind of close, thrilling aspect that does legitimize it. But that's, very much reliant on who can attend and who can play and what types of results we get. And with Europe having 5 of the top 10 players in this rendition, it did feel quite one-sided. So actually Team World made a, smashing go of it to get so close. And I think, Taylor Fritz, Shelton, TFO really kind of, doing the business for Team World especially. But I don't think I'd pay, I don't know, 300 quid, dollars. I'm not actually sure how much the prices were to see, Alejandro Tabilo.
Yeah.
No offense to him, that's probably not.
It's like
If I was
Oasis.
in Chile, maybe I would.
Oasis.
Oasis, yeah. It's
like-
demand-based ticketing, is
Search
it?
It's dynamic.
pricing,
It feels
yeah.
like it's like dynamic pricing. But
Yeah.
I think what to me is interesting about it is that it's, there's been articles coming out about the fact that actually the Laver Cup is a loss earner. And it's operating at a big loss. There was an article I was reading on, I think, Essentially Sports, about the fact that it's like in the millions of dollars in terms of loss making.
Wow.
And that's one of the reasons why ticket prices are so expensive, because they need to recoup this money somehow. I would arguably say that if you're losing that much, no extortionate ticket prices are going to make up that difference. But it does sort of, I do wonder, is the Laver Cup in this sort of phase of, does it matter that it's a loss earner because they're establishing credibility? Or at the end of the day, like, is this a real problem? The fact that if these reports are true, like, how is this event going when it's sold out at capacity with high ticket prices, and yet it's losing potentially millions of dollars?
I think for me, it doesn't make sense to keep it going in the same way if something is obviously losing money. I also do like these players competing on the tour. I think it does mean you do have these strange weeks where the tour events aren't getting the players, especially when, Nadal dropped out of this, which meant that Dimitrov then got hired, Kokkinakis then got hired. And those players might be, very much celebrated or the headline of another tournament somewhere. Players talk about playing too much, the season being too long. This does feel like a natural week to sit out, especially following potential Davis Cup heroics the week before. So it is sort of one of those ones where it doesn't have a natural place that sort of makes sense. And there is no real reason to play it because it's not ranking points related. And the geography of where you're born, I mean, that's quite a strange one when it comes to Europe versus the rest of the world, when obviously we have the Olympics this year from a team competition perspective. But I mean, I enjoy.
They love it though.
I enjoy
the
seeing
players
people.
love it.
Well, they're getting paid a lot of money, Joel, to kind of play one match
How
across
cynical of you, Chris.
3 days. I mean, I would love it too, but no,
But hang on,
they're making
it's unique.
friendships. Maybe
The setup is unique, and I do like as I say, like hearing about the strategies and the tips that players hand to each other. It's like they almost become the coaches.
That's fun. I do enjoy that. I think that's also something you get at UTS, where you can talk to the players, hear a bit more about what's going on. I do love the fact that Zverev said that his biggest champion was Alcaraz, who was saying, "You've got this. There's no way that you're going to lose to France's TFO or something like that." And Zverev was like, "Well, I don't know. I'm going to win that myself." So it's those things that you think are quite nice in those moments. But for me, I'm more invested when it's that year with Djokovic, Murray, Federer, and Nadal, and hearing what they say to each other, because I feel like I don't necessarily want to see the chinks in the armor of some of the less great players. I'd much rather hear those words of wisdom from the very top of the game. But I'm the cynic amongst us. You love the hospitality, Joel. I'd much rather be at a challenger, on a plastic bench than at the Laver Cup.
I think the Laver Cup peaked when Federer retired and Rafa
Ellie Goulding,
sat on a bench
very
crying
true.
to Ellie Goulding.
Yeah.
I don't think you can top that.
That's
personally.
too high a peak, isn't it?
It definitely is.
I mean, are we? But are we? I mean, as Kim, you did mention the fact that Borg and McEnroe, this is their final one. It's almost like we're moving now into the next era and generation, and we're going to have Agassi and Yannick Noah as the captains next year in San Francisco. Do you think there's a feeling now that, like, almost like that's going to be the past next year, and we're going to be moving into kind of the next iteration of this event, and we're not going to be relying probably on Djokovic or Nadal to play, and actually we are going to be using this more of as a showcase to look forward at the talent that's here and now?
I think it's a suitable time to kind of have that transition, actually, with the change in captains, change in players, which is inevitable with the retirement of the greats. So I think it's an appropriate time. I think maybe they could do something else to freshen it up. I don't know if they might make some other tweaks. It's going to be in San Francisco next September, so
every
out
2
stateside
years
again.
might be nice. I think that would be quite a bit better, because it's hard to get hyped every year for an event like this. Also, I think it would be mixing up the teams. I think it would be quite fun if they did gamify it a bit more, that you're able to sub in someone from, you have to you can pick someone from their team to play with you. I don't know what it would be, but I just feel like the level of prestige attached to it versus the actual fun that you witness. I mean, for me, I'm more excited, as I said, by Roger Federer being courtside than I am necessarily Medvedev and Tsitsipas becoming best friends.
Chris, I've got an idea.
Mm.
Maybe we go away. Maybe we come back at some point with it. Either let's figure out what the female Laver Cup edition looks like, or
Ooh.
what about a challenger version of the Laver Cup?
Like
Team
the
Europe
movie.
versus Team World, but
In
players that
Croydon.
are
Yes.
only predominantly on the Challenger Tour.
I think it would be quite fun to do like a version like that, you know, like a 50 to 100 in the world.
Yeah.
You know, really fighting out for some big money that means something to them as opposed to just more Rolexes, you know.
I'm not
so
sure, would the sponsors be giving the big money
actually,
for
if
that,
that's
though?
not going to make money as the Laver
It's not
Cup,
making
I'm
money at
not
the
sure the
moment, so what
Croydon
does it
Cup
matter?
is going to make
Yeah.
money either. Yeah, okay.
I
We're
mean,
not
just
business
one-
people here. We break even at Tennis Weekly.
Just one note, obviously, Rafa dropping out very late on. He said, this is a team competition, and to really support Team Europe, I need to do what's best for them. And at this moment, there are other players who can help the team deliver the win. Did you feel that that was a fair comment from him in terms of his late withdrawal? Joel?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting you said that. I would just very simply say that a comment like this again helps legitimize the competition, and it shows how serious I think players do take it. Yeah, I quite like that. But I don't know if it's going to win over, as I say, the people who just see this as a glorified exhibition. And I think it's tough when you see, you know, players talk about the scheduling and saying the scheduling is crazy, and then you see them take these events on. It feels like you can quite easily get yourself into quite a hypocritical situation.
I don't buy it. I don't buy the Nadal reason. I think he has to say that. He can't be like, I didn't really fancy it, and I'm trying to get fitter another time, because obviously Federer wasn't an active player when he played it. You know, the last time he'd had over a year off the tour. So is it an exhibition or is it a competition? I think it depends who you ask. And the official line from Rafa is that he had to, you know, make way for Dimitrov to come in, who probably is fitter now than himself.
Baby fed.
Exactly.
Well, let's have a look at what happened on the actual tour last week, because we had a flurry of tournaments across Asia. Let's start in Hangzhou, where we had Marin Cilic. Very retro Marin Cilic.
Haven't heard that name in a while.
Winning the
player.
title. He was 777 in the rankings, coming into this event as a wild card. It's his first event on the tour since February. He's had a lot of injury issues, so he missed the start of the season. But yeah, beating Shang Juncheng in the final to capture his first title in 3 years, 2021. I mean, Marin Cilic, I kind of assumed he'd basically retired already. Chris, what do you make of Cilic topping the tournament with a title once more?
What a comeback for him. We were saying, I think during the US Open, there was a stat that came out and we couldn't believe that Marin Cilic counted as an active player because he hadn't played since Buenos Aires. And I think the last time he played, Alina was asking him questions in press over in Argentina. So that almost felt like a fever dream, given how long ago that happened. And he's been making a comeback on the Challenger Tour first. This is his first tour event that he's played since, as you say, February. And what a result. I think this is the perfect opportunity to make a comeback on the tour. It's a great level to be making a comeback at for a 250 to get some ranking points and momentum in the Asian swing, especially because a lot of players don't end up playing it or making the journey over there. And we've seen that particularly on the women's side with big names dropping out like Swiatek and Rybakina. Less so on the men's side. I think the men's weighting of the calendar has always been a bit more naturally continuing in this period with Paris towards the end of the year. But I mean, very exciting that he's able to get back and put together such a great result and remind people that when you can serve like he can and hit as big as he can, you're always going to be a threat, no matter how much you've been playing.
He beat Brandon Nakashima as well in the semi-finals, who had a good US Open. So yeah, that's a very credible win there. And the final itself was 2 tie breaks. I mean, it begs the question, can you guys think of the other lowest ranked champions in ATP Tour history? Because Marin Cilic is the lowest ranked since 1990 in ATP Tour history. So can you think of who else might be on that list? Any
See,
guesses?
I'm also thinking like this is ranked. So if you're unranked, you wouldn't be on the list. So for example, if Nadal came back and won a tournament without a ranking, that wouldn't count. But I would say Nadal, maybe he's had an injury layoff, lost his ranking points, building it back again. I'm not sure.
He's not in the top 6. I can tell you kind of roughly what the rankings would be. We had someone win a tournament at 550, 355, 352, 349, and 335. So
What
Marin
about
Cilic by some
Berrettini?
way is
Maybe
the
he's
lowest.
dropped out the rankings. I don't know.
I swear Cerundolo, one of the Cerandolos broke on to the scene in the Golden Swing.
Ooh,
And it
knowledge.
seemed out
He
of
did.
nowhere.
The younger
I can't remember which
Cerundolo.
one it was.
The younger one, yeah.
The
was,
not as
Juan
good one.
Manuel.
Yeah, it was the younger one.
Juan Manuel, that's it. Yeah.
Juan Manuel, Cordoba 2021. You're right, Joe, at number 335.
I refuse to let this happen. Surely, Joel, you've not beaten me at this.
I mean, we also had I don't know. These aren't particularly recent. Leighton Hewitt in 1998, Adelaide was 550 in the world.
Wow.
Pablo Andujar, Marrakesh 2018, he was 355 in the world. Fernando Gonzalez in Orlando 2000 was 352 in the world. And finally, Tommy Haas was 349 in the world and won Houston 2004. So it doesn't happen very often. Hasn't happened in over 3 years.
Just looking at those names, are you telling me, Kim, they're all class players, though? Maybe
Absolute
apart from
class.
Cerundolo, but yeah, form is temporary, class is permanent.
There we go. So well done, Marin Cilic. He's back up to 212 in the rankings. And yeah, back to winning ways. Let's see what he does next. We also had the Chengdu Open, and this was won by Shang Juncheng, home favorite here, beating Fissette in the final to win his very first ATP title. Another straight sets victory, 7-6, 6-1. First Chinese player to win an ATP title at home. Joel, how impressed were you with Shang in the final against Fissette, who has been in great form this year?
Yeah. I mean, Musetti's had one of, he's had a very, very good season this year, but has still not won a title, which feels surprising to say. He's won medals, but he hasn't won a title. And Shang, in that second set particularly, was playing fantastic. I mean, he's such a prospect on the tour. I'm fully expecting to see him at the next gen finals at the end of the season. I think he really announced himself at the Grand Slam stage this year because he took Dimitrov and Casper Ruud to 5 sets. He was 2 sets up in both those matches at Wimbledon and the US Open. So he is definitely someone who's bursting onto the scene. And I think it's really exciting to see, as I say, like there feels like a crop of like Chinese players that are coming onto the tour. And I certainly think he's going to be a player that is going to continue making rises up the ranking.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a real prospect, and that match itself, like he served for the first set, got broken, but managed to get it done in the tiebreak, and then just really unleashed. I think in that second set to kind of dominate,
especially with like a home crowd and history on the line as well. With first Chinese player on home soil. So yeah, very impressive.
Yeah, and some good wins throughout the week. Bublik, Hanfmann, and maybe Musetti going into that as the top seed, thinking, I'm the favourite here, and it got to him a little bit.
I very quickly I saw Bublik. There was a bit of like kind of social media content with the tournament going on, and how like tennis players love to play table tennis. When there's rain delays in the the player lounge. Well, they got like a table tennis player who was like ranked in the top 10 to have like a casual hit with Bublik, and you could probably guess where it was going, but it was quite funny. Yeah.
Behind the scenes footage. But yes, we'll look to see what Musetti can do. Will he win a title before the end of the season?
He deserves it.
Deserves one.
it.
I honestly thought he won Umag, but clearly not. That must have been Cerundolo that won that in the end. So, I mean, from one Cerundolo to another.
Absolutely. So many Cerandolos. Let's move across to the WTA events, because we did have the Korea Open. This was a 500 event on the WTA tour, won by Beatriz Haddad Maia from a set and a breakdown in the final. She came back against Daria Kasatkina to win the title in Seoul. So this was her first title of the season. And she's actually been on a bit of a roll lately. She's won 12 of the past 14 matches, but finally picking up a title. And yeah, really kind of not great from Kasatkina. She had actually a break point to serve the match and then just kind of got annihilated in those last 9 games. So yeah, bit of a kind of topsy-turvy final, a game of two halves, as they say. But Chris, yeah, what did you make of Haddad Maia's week in Seoul?
Well, I mean, very impressive. She finds a way to win. I think that's always been a big part of her game. Remember, my pit of the US Open was that Haddad Maia took out Wozniacki in that match. So maybe looking at the results really picking up for Haddad Maia in the latter half of this season, Wozniacki can feel a bit better about that loss. But I mean, she's up to number 12 again in the rankings, and she really hasn't had the best of seasons overall. It is very much back weighted after that quarterfinal result at the US Open. And you have to think that again, she's someone who is so in shape that she's not going to be taking weeks out during the Asian swing. She's going to keep on picking up ranking points to try and get that ranking up to above a career high of number 10, which I believe is her highest ranking. And that was the year that she reached the semifinals at the French Open. So she's putting together.
Yeah. Do you think we could see her in tour finals end of the season?
I think she's going to play as many events to see if she can. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why Kasatkina maybe got a little bit in her head at these moments, because this is a 500. It's a big opportunity heading into the full Asian swing and some of the bigger tournaments to get those points. I spoke to Kasatkina in Eastbourne, and that's really is a goal for her to make it to Riyadh. She really wants to be in the top 8. And when you are trying to put away this sort of a match and this sort of an opportunity as the number 1 seed, clearly, I think it got to her a little bit, but Haddad Maia is a great competitor. So potentially it was also because she raised her level in those key moments.
Well-deserved victory for her. Just a note on Emma Raducanu. She was in this event, but actually retired against Kasatkina. Yeah, bit worrying for Emma Raducanu. She's sort of been obviously adjusting her schedule. So she, was giving herself kind of gaps and not playing every event, but it seems she's got picked up something else and just does not seem to be getting any sort of run of form or flow. What do you make of the latest from Raducanu? What's going on with her these days?
It's tough, isn't it? I mean, every time I get that excitement level up, it's so hard to sustain it because she has been so unlucky. This is a sprained ankle ligament in the foot. That's obviously unavoidable, but you do have to ask the question. There are so many injuries that are happening, and I'm not sure whether it's a strength and conditioning issue because she's not playing that much on the tour potentially. And maybe that's what she's missing is the physical sort of wear and tear that you and the hardiness that you need from competing on the tour. But I mean, such a shame because so much promise in the matches that she has played, but we're just so used to now seeing her retire in these moments. The level's there, but it does just make you ask the question, is she able to sustain, a career in tennis without these injuries? I think time will tell. We hope because we know the level is there and she's done an unbelievable thing in winning a Grand Slam title. But I mean, the day-to-day life on the tour, I mean, you have to be a hardy competitor. And I'm not sure that she's physically there. Of course, this is unfortunate, but it does beg the question, will she ever have, that clean period of competition?
Yes, question marks over Emma Raducanu at the moment, but we do wish her well with that, recovering from that particular injury. We do have the Thailand Open as well, which took place. This was a WTA 250 event, and this was won by that Rebecca Stramkova, who got to that final against Sonne Kartal at the Jasmine Open beforehand, but finally captured her first WTA title herself with a win over Laura Ziegmund, 6-4, 6-4 at the Thailand Open. Just gone. So yeah, real kind of resurgence from the Slovakian, having a really great run of form in the last few weeks of the season, and winning, having won 9 of her last 10 matches. I don't know much about her. I'm gonna be ignorant.
I'm worried you're gonna ask me what I think. I feel like Chris, resident WTA expert, needs to give us a bit of give us a bit of a lesson.
Her CV, Chris.
I can indeed. Tell. I mean, I'm a Slovakian tennis enthusiast, as everyone knows, a big fan of Daniela Hanchikova. But I mean, this is a player who's been on the tour for quite some time now. She's 27, so it's really a sort of a breakout few weeks for her in terms of the results that she's had. She's never made it past the first round of a Grand Slam previously, so she really is putting these results together for the first time, up to a career high ranking now. So this is very much the best that she has been. So that's very exciting for her. But normally she sort of bubbles around playing in, the Billie Jean King Cup matches that we see is where she tends to have the biggest matches where she plays against some pretty big players. But in 2020,
changed?
Pardon?
What's changed?
Well, I mean, I do think it's a case that, if you are playing that much, there is that breakout tournament where something can happen for you. But I was going to say a big result for her happened in Prague, where she actually took out Petra Kvitova for the biggest win of her career in 2021. So that was on home soil. So she can throw an upset. And she also has taken out Mukova before to make her first quarterfinal in Warsaw. So she's got something against the Czechs, maybe because they're so close in border that maybe there's some fire there. But again, I mean, putting it together, backing up a good week and showing that, losing to Sonne didn't deter her. She came through and won her own title.
Maybe she'll be the queen of the Asian swing 250s. I don't know. We'll see. But she becomes the 10th first-time WTA champion this season. And don't worry, I won't ask you to name them all because
it'll be a collector set in the future. Yeah.
Chris will be like nailing it, but
we'll do that in the quiz end of year. Prepare in advance.
Let's
me and Kim are gonna be like Sunday Cartal and
yeah,
that's it.
I'll give you that one now.
Well, let's take a quick break now, but do join us in the second half where we'll be discussing Coco Gauff's split with Brad Gilbert as Naomi Osaka teams up with Patrick Mouratoglou, Rafa Nadal being announced for the Davis Cup finals in Malaga, and we look ahead to the WTA 1000 Beijing event in China. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast, and it's time, as always, for another game in this edition of the podcast. We will be saving our big quizzing, for the end of season, but we do have a par for the courts. Very excitingly, I've been missing these, I have to say, in the last
I'm not sure
weeks.
if I've missed them or...
Yes. and Kim, I've actually put a little twist on this edition of Par for the Courts for you, Chris, and our listeners. So I don't know if you saw this, but the US Open content team I thought was great. And one of the things that they asked a lot of players was how many US Open champions, male, female, in singles, in the Open era, can you name in 60 seconds?
Ooh.
So what I am going to ask you is that exact same question, but it is a Par for the Courts Beat the Clock edition. And the
60 seconds.
60 US seconds. Open champions.
US Open champions.
Okay.
Male, female, Open era.
And we're working together.
You're working together. And the high score you have to beat is Daniil Medvedev got 20.
Oh,
one every 3 seconds. Surely we
can we beat
that.
Medvedev
names
with 2 brains, Kim?
And I've got it. Yeah. I've got it here. You can see that there's a little leaderboard.
Oh, don't show us the answers.
Oh no, that's
I
their
see.
guesses.
That's
it's
the
okay.
Players. Okay,
We're very professional. You can tell from this the research done. Yes, we want to top that leaderboard.
You want to top it? I've got a sheet of all the names here.
How about Kim? You do the men, I'll do the women.
Okay.
Yeah,
that seems
strategy
fair.
Already. Right.
Then
I'm going to get my stopwatch up.
We're competing from different sections. We're
and
pulling.
Are you going to tick them off a list, Joel? I see you've got them printed out.
Yeah, I'm going to just hopefully.
This is going to be chaos. Please watch us on YouTube. Chaos. This is already chaos.
It's going to be chaos. Right.
Okay. Right.
Are you ready? I've got the timer.
Yes. Oh, this is stressful.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go.
Sabalenka.
Yannick Sinner. Rafael Nadal,
Coco Gauff,
Novak Djokovic,
5,
Andy Murray,
Iga Swiatek,
Roger Federer,
7, 8,
Raducanu,
9, 10,
Naomi Osaka,
Andy
11,
Roddick,
12, 13,
Sloane
Andre
Stephens,
Agassi,
Sloane Stephens, yes, 14,
Flavia
Pete
Pennetta,
Sampras,
15, 16. I've lost count. 16,
Sampras,
yes.
Kim Clijsters, Serena Williams, obviously, Maria Sharapova,
17,
Justine
18,
Henin,
19.
Kuznetsova.
I'm struggling. Leighton Hewitt? No. Marat
Maybe he did.
No.
I don't know.
I'm just saying names. Johansson?
Obviously,
no.
Steffi Graf.
Yes.
Venus Williams,
20
John
seconds
McEnroe.
left.
John
Davenport,
McEnroe. Boris
Martina
Becker.
Hingis must have won it. This is chaos for audio listeners.
This is chaos.
Stefan
Monica Sellers
Edberg.
must have won it.
Yes, she did. Yes, correct.
Who else do we have?
Bjorn
Sabatini.
Borg.
Oh, Navratilova, Chris
Rod
Evert, of
Laver.
course.
Yes. Okay, guys, you win. You've got over 20.
This was chaos, pure chaos.
That was chaos.
I think that was a great shout to split the men and the women, though.
I think that almost counts as cheating.
The alarm has gone off. Yes.
So we
Maybe
beat
I should have done it
Medvedev.
as one. But yes, very well
we
done.
didn't say Medvedev.
We didn't say Medvedev.
I didn't say Medvedev. Sorry.
That was the only spoiler that we got, the only clue that we got. But
and I didn't even say.
listeners,
Did you say Stan Wawrinka?
Nope, forgot him as
No.
well.
Dominic Thiem?
Nope, forgot him too.
Right.
Who did you guess, Kip?
Did you say
I
Carlos Alcaraz?
Nope, forgot him as well.
Oh,
I went from like
Thiem.
Sinner, then I did the big four, and then I went back to like.
We also
Andy
just
Roddick.
shouted over each other. So anyone listening, I'm very sorry. We won't repeat the format, but we have successfully shouted names at you for a minute.
Just some very quickly, some names. I don't think you said Marat Safin as well.
Oh, I did say him.
Oh, did you say Safin?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Pat Rafter,
I don't know how you're going to keep track of this, Joel. Lots of
I
names.
don't know.
Look it up, listeners.
Ivan Lendl,
Yes, we didn't say him.
Connors, McEnroe, Guillermo Villas,
Connors.
Manuel Orantes from Spain.
That should be double points.
Yeah, so 1975. Nastasi, Newcomb, Stan Smith, Ken Rosewall, Arthur Ashe.
I mean, I'm surprised people didn't get to more in
men's.
60 seconds, if I'm completely honest.
Can't believe I didn't say Alcaraz.
Bianca Andreescu. Did we say that?
I think I forgot her.
Andreescu.
I tried to go
Panetta,
back in
Kerber,
order.
Yeah. Davenport.
Didn't say Kerber.
Sanchez Vicario.
Can we just say that Joel has a
Sabatini.
printout? What a wonderful
That's
thing
so
to see.
organised.
It is
I
so
know.
organized. You can tell that
Tracy
he was on
Austin.
holiday.
Tracy Austin, Billie Jean King, Margaret Court. Yeah, lots and lots of names. Listeners, let us know, how did you do? How did you stack up against all of the
And please tell us
players?
if you would like that to be repeated. I don't think we will be because of the chaos, but if you really loved it, we can.
Yes, speed quizzing. But anyway, let us know your thoughts. Let us know how you did. We at least beat Daniel Medvedev, so hurrah. Well, let's dip into the mailbag now because Eric got in touch with us on email and asked us. The Times reported that the home and away format is returning to the Davis Cup, with the round robin format being dropped by 2026 for a September home and away tie. Is this a good thing for the competition, players, and format, or should they stop changing how it works every few years? Great question from Eric there. Thanks for getting in touch. Joel, I'm going to come to you first. What do you think on this one?
Yeah, I mean, having gone to Davis Cup events and hearing from the players, hearing from Leighton Hewitt, I think a lot of players and people involved in Davis Cup will love this, the fact that it's going back to the old days and how it was. And I do think that getting back to this format where we're getting rid of neutral venues at this stage, I just think it's going to help with the atmosphere. And I think that's one of the big issues with Davis Cup and qualification. I mean, we saw in Manchester, Leon Smith, the GB Davis Cup captain, basically being like, it's too quiet. And that is not something he's just said, has said lightly, or has said just once before. You know, when we went last year, it was the same message.
200 people there sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
For France,
and that's from the home captain. Just think, you know, when it's like in the middle of the daytime and it's, as I say, two countries and it's not that's venues. It's a real issue. So I think going back to this format is just going to add a bit more energy, a bit more excitement and vibrancy. And I think the players are really going to thrive in it. I think they love to have these more confrontational atmospheres. I feel like that's what we know the Davis Cup is about. So yeah, I'm all for it.
And Chris, do you agree? Anything to add?
I do agree. I think I wasn't at the finals last year because I was actually in hospital, so that was my pneumonia incident. But what I would say from watching it, I thought it looked exhausting. The finals being, you know, knockout in the way they are, because you have to come back sometimes if you're scheduled badly, day after day, playing singles and doubles. And previously, it would have been a tie that would have been best of 5. It would have been played over multiple days, and you wouldn't be doing double duty every day for 3 days in a row in the way that Yannick Sinner almost did at the end. So I do think that this is a positive thing, because I think that it does lighten the load a little bit. I think it can be that hill too far and that push too far after a slam for some players. You know, Jack Draper, obviously it was too much for him physically to rebound. Sinner did sit it out. So I think there is that element, but I also think I'd like to see the finals be a final again. I think there's a real nice atmosphere of having everyone under one roof. I'm sure that will be exciting in Malaga this time with the women and the men in the same location with some crossover dates. But I do just think that I loved it when it was a tie. And I do just think physically it can get hugely draining if you are to win this title. And I mean, someone like Novak Djokovic, it almost would be impossible given, you know, the stage of his career that he's at to do it singles and doubles duty 4 days in a row or 3 days in a row, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think the changes to the format, it's just going to be to the September edition at the moment. So the finals will still be this kind of group stage.
So
like
that would be the knockout. Would it be the finals?
But the finals would be as it is at the
yes.
moment. But it would be the September wouldn't be a sort of another round robin, but it would be just a home and away tie, I think. But I mean, that does bring us on nicely to the fact that we do have the final 8 set for the Davis Cup in Malaga after the recent qualifiers that took place in September. So we do have Italy, Argentina, USA, Australia, Germany, Canada, Netherlands, and Spain who have made it through successfully to the knockout stage. So the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and final in Malaga from the 19th of November onwards. I mean, Spain are there. Rafa has announced that he is due to play. Whether he will or not, I don't know because, you know, he pulled out the Laver Cup. But, you know, this will be at home. And, I mean,
what do you think,
it be
Kim?
his last hurrah? I don't know.
Is it his last dance? I mean, Spain at home, lifting the massive Davis Cup trophy. Is that that feels like a fitting send-off if that were to happen?
Yes, it could well be. They've got to get through, you know, Netherlands, Germany or Canada. It really just depends. Greek. They've got to get through Talon Greeks for everyone. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he still like pulls out. He might still be there, you know, in some kind of spiritual capacity to cheer everyone on. But I don't know if he's not going to feel up to it, like he can perform and help the team. It'd be a similar situation to the Laver Cup.
It'd be great to have a bit more of Nadal and Alcaraz on the doubles court.
Wow, it's also it's good having Spain in the final 8 this year.
Very true,
especially from ticket sales. Yeah, so that's very positive there. But I mean, it could be a very fitting way for things to end. But you'd have to say, you can't really put someone in who's untried or from a form perspective, because you have to win every single rubber pretty much. You can't, there's no banker rubbers. You don't know what's going to happen in the doubles either. So I can see him maybe playing in a doubles because they don't have necessarily a doubles partnership. And Alcaraz and Nadal have obviously played together previously, but I can't see him being picked for singles necessarily. I think it's going to be a really tricky call to make, especially if you are the captain, whether you do go with Nadal, if this is his final event. But none of us know, and he probably doesn't know at this stage, even if he will be competing.
Yeah, I mean, I can see Italy and USA perhaps being the strongest candidates.
Big semi-final that could be.
Yannick Sinner, Taylor Fritz, etc. In
I would have said Australia have a very good shout as well.
Max Purcell, Thompson,
very
strong.
They
did well last year.
Yeah.
No
Seminole,
Serbia, so we don't have Djokovic this time round. But yeah, well, we obviously following that up nearer the time with all the latest Davis Cup news. For now, let's have a look at what else has been happening lately. Coaching corner, we've had some big coaching movers and shakers. Naomi Osaka has arrived in Beijing with her new coach in tow, and that being Patrick Mouratoglou. So that's quite exciting news. She's split from Fissette now with Team Mouratoglou. Chris, any thoughts on that partnership? Is that going to breed success?
I mean, it's a big change. I think she did need to make a change. The other news that we will be talking about is the Coco Gauff. I think when you aren't getting the results, and I think that Osaka's been so close. And I think when Fissette said that they were so close to having that breakthrough this year, and I think that's very fair. They were 1 point away at the French Open of the biggest win of anyone this year. I mean, it would be huge. It
would have been the biggest shock, I think, of maybe of the season against
it would have been. And I was there and the level was there and the team looked like they were really, doing well together. It's just been so hard to build. And I think that is because of the mental side of the game. It's so tough to get over that line, especially when you want it so bad that you haven't had the form, you're coming back. It used to come so easily. So I do think that that is going to be the challenge. And the challenge where Naomi said doesn't feel necessarily like she's in her body at times. And I'm not sure necessarily if the change is the thing that will make for a positive refresh here. I'm not sure that Patrick Mouratoglou is famous for the emotional support side of things, or necessarily from. He's much more of a almost like a champion maker. That's how he sees himself, I think, and what he's able to do. So I think that's probably why she wants to be back with someone who had success, especially post the ultimate success they had earlier, even built on that more. Serena's story was like that. Serena won some slams. She was away from tennis, very different reasons. Serena had some time out. Naomi had a baby, and then she won the majority of her slams. So I think that that's an arc that Naomi really wants. This is a surprise. I think that maybe this tells me that Mouratoglou did actually maybe bin off Holger Rune. And from that chat that you had with him at Wimbledon, he was very carefully wording things, Joel. Did you get any sense that maybe it was coming from Patrick, that split, as opposed to from Holger?
I mean, no, I think this still caught me off guard. And I spoke to Mouratoglou around, Ultimate Tennis Showdown earlier in the year. And again, I didn't get this sense, but it does. At the same time, though, when I read those two together, it feels like it does make sense. As you say, he is a champion maker. That's why he gets involved. I think he breeds Grand Slam champions. You just look at his resume for success, and maybe I think that's what has motivated Osaka, for them to join forces. So yeah, it'd be an interesting partnership. But I also think with Osaka, she needs to. There's still plenty of work to be done there, because I feel like she's just getting frustrated with herself a little bit too much, and it's, as I say, impacting on her game. And I can understand why those frustrations are there, but she needs to get down to the tennis and get back to where she was.
Yeah, and Kim, I'd ask the question: do you think it's more for Naomi off the court work that needs to be done as opposed to on the court? Do you think that the coach will make a huge difference to her, or do you think it's how she's feeling herself that makes the biggest difference to her results?
Well, I think now she's, a mother, she has like a much better perspective on everything. So I feel that I think it's probably just, I don't think it's anything like necessarily with her. I think it's just waiting for it to finally click into place. Because I think what we've seen we've seen some real flashes of brilliance, especially like you alluded to, that match that could have been so different earlier in the year. So I actually think this partnership could be a real winning combination. And I think we might see it all gelling come the Australian Open. I wouldn't be surprised.
It still feels like... Sorry.
I was going to say, she only came back at the start of the year. Sometimes these things take time. And I don't know. I think this is a good move on her part. I do.
It still feels like that Osaka Swiatek match, French Open's a what if moment. And we sort of, I just maybe naively assumed, oh, she's back. She didn't get the job done, but she's back. And
I did. I tweeted exactly that.
Yeah.
Naomi Osaka is back.
That's what happened.
I actually did.
I mean, I'm gutted she didn't win the Olympics like I said she would.
She got so close to taking a set off Angie Kerber in round one.
That was, basically a gold medal.
Yeah.
But we do have to cover the other coaching news, of course. Coco Gauff has split up with coach Brad Gilbert. So they began working together about a year ago, obviously before she won her US Open title. But yeah, very recently they have parted ways, which we perhaps were expecting because of Coco Gauff's recent form. They kind of had some nice messages that, wishing each other well, etc. But what do you think's next for her? Like, do you think she could be targeting anyone in particular? Like, what do you think she should do? Chris?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think Coco, if she really is going to keep pushing forward, I think she needs a coach that doesn't shy away from the issues in her game. I think what Brad did was so much of the mental side of things, in terms of not saying change things, shift things. It was a lot more about, he's famous for winning ugly, and she's done that so many times. She's found ways to win when she's had bad days, and previously she wasn't doing that. And then she has a great day, when she can play, top two tennis at the moment. And then it does sort of yo-yo between the two, and they really clicked at that point in time. And some coaching relationships do click for a tournament, like Emma Raducanu and her coach at the US Open. and some click for years and years and years. So I think it did run its course, but I think she needs a coach that won't shy away from the forehand, and from the serve, because I think he's always been very defensive of the forehand, saying it wasn't a technical problem. There was no problem. There is a problem. I think you don't have to be an expert at tennis to know that the forehand is not one of the best shots in the top 10 by any stretch of the imagination. It's actually a shot that if you hit it hard enough at it, it will break down. So she needs a coach who's going to tell her the truth. We all saw it coming. And I would like to see some big changes. I've talked about Australia in the off season. I think that's when she's going to have to start shifting the forehand technique, or start making some small changes, because I mean she's got the game. It's just tweaks that she needs to make to that forehand to make it technically sound.
I think, and the serve as well. A lot of double faults.
Yes,
was also an issue. But I agree. I think she needs to get a coach who's going to help with her her technical
one
shots.
step back, 2 steps forward.
Yeah, and it didn't feel like Brad Gilbert maybe gave that as much attention as he should have. And I think just also like looking at it on TV, it felt like they just were fed up with each other. Like
They have nothing in common,
between
I don't think.
the player box and the on-court player. It didn't feel like there was any harmony there, towards the end of that relationship. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I was just going to say, it's quite interesting now because Gauff and Rybakina are both coachless. So we have 2 top 5 players without a coach, which feels, quite a interesting, strange perspective. Well, I've just assumed we just think that like the players highest up in the rankings have these amazing teams,
super coaches,
and actually we've got 2 at the moment. Who
Fissette will be thinking about it, won't he? Obviously he was coaching Qin Zheng, and then he ditched her when Osaka was coming back after maternity leave. But you have to think that
Fissette and Rybakina,
I think that could be a good match, because she obviously, and we won't talk about this in any detail today, but there were issues with her previous coach and the ways in which potentially that relationship did go down. There's rumors about WTA bans. All of these are alleged at the moment. So someone like Fissette, who's well known to be a very nice guy and worked with someone like Naomi Osaka, who is also famous for being very lovely, I think that could be a much needed change for her. So I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some of the coaches who have been, switching about, that they do look for that top 5 position, because I mean, imagine coaching Gauff and Rebecca. That's one of the best tickets you can have, really, as a steed who could be competing on the tour with you.
I mean, if I'm coaching Rebecca, I get to watch. I have my feet up for a lot of the time, I think.
Yeah, just work on the serve and then stop.
Well, she is out injured at the moment, so she's not playing the WTA 1000 event in Beijing, which is happening this week. It's a big draw, 1000 WTA ATP 500. I mean, we do have, Arina Sabalenka, Pegula, Paolini, Coco Gauff. They are all there in attendance. Obviously, Rybakina not, Swiatek's not there either. It's a 96-person draw for the women. Are you a fan of these big draws, or is it too much?
It takes so long, I feel like, to get to actually matches that are good and entertaining and interesting. I mean, like Katie Boulter's got a bye into the second round, and she's like the 26th seed. It feels a bit like
it's a bit extra, isn't it?
It's a mini slam.
Who's making up these first round matches? Yeah, I feel like I'm not too sure. Yeah,
not too much of a fan. But I mean, any thoughts on who's likely to come out of this as the eventual victor? Any predictions?
That's a good question. I think I'm looking at Mira Andreeva to have a good. Lulu Sun could be a good shout. She's been having some good form. I'd love to see someone like Fernandez push on a bit. I'd love to see Kalinskaya, she's seeded 10, actually do something that warrants the ranking. And also, it's always fascinating to see how Coco Gauff will be doing coachless. But don't you think Kalinskaya is like world number 14? And I think she made the final in Dubai and semi-finals of Oz. But since then, it's been, I'd say not.
She's an underwhelming world number 14, isn't she?
But Dossa, love to see what she could do. So I think it's about those the opportunities in Asia definitely present themselves when top names aren't in the draw.
Yes. I've got my eyes on Deanna Schneider. I think she was having a really good run of form prior to the US Open. Maybe she could do well here.
Greet Minen in the draw as well, Joel, for you.
What about
Haddad Maya?
Still unseeded, still forever in my heart. Karolina Mukova in round 1.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Osaka, obviously, that could be interesting. And then we've got Anisimova. maybe round one is going to be pretty lit, Joel, after everything you just said.
Eat your words.
Are we doing
Yeah.
are we doing predictions? Quick fire predictions?
Okay.
I think for eventual winner, I'm going to say Haddad Maia. I'm going to say she's going to carry
Ooh.
on and win a big title. Yeah.
I'm going to go ballsy. I know I'm famed for my
What does this even mean?
and
Come on.
rogue predictions. Arena Sabalenka.
Ah, yes, there we go. as usual. I will go for, this is going to be an interesting one. What about,
Sophia Kenin.
I don't want to go anything too bland though,
Martina
but
Trevisan.
let's go for,
Tim Wensheng?
I'm trying to see if I can see Sloane Stephens in the draw, but let's say Ostapenko's coming back to form.
Oh, okay.
All right. So Ostapenko, Haddad Maia or Sabalenka. Listeners, let us know who you think's
I
winning
believe
Beijing.
Joel's going to get the result.
And I'm going to get no credit for it because she's the top
Number
seed.
one seed.
Yeah.
What about the men? We've got the 500 event in Beijing as well, happening at the same time with Yannick Sinner as the top seed here and Alcaraz as the second seed. So that's exciting. We could have a Sinner-Alcaraz finale. Medvedev's also here, Rublev, Dimitrov, Fissette. Is this quite a stacked field, actually?
This is
It's a
just
good
Laver
one.
Cup on tour, isn't it?
They probably had a flight together, probably chartered a plane.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
Played some Lego. Yeah, well, who knows? Who's winning this one then, guys?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Sinner. Gonna go Sinner.
You think Sinner?
Yeah, he's gonna be fresh.
I would just love Medvedev to put it together. I think I can see him doing well here. I'm not thinking Alcaraz, and I always get in trouble for not thinking Alcaraz at certain times, but I just think it's I just don't know where he's at the moment. So I'd love to see him do well, but I'm gonna go for Medvedev here.
I wouldn't be surprised if Alcaraz loses to Griegspoor in the second round or someone.
Well, I mean,
Second time he's been
preparing for
mentioned
Malaga.
today.
Yeah, those two.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Sinner's the sort of confident pick here. Perhaps Bublik could be a surprise finalist. We'll see.
Actually, I was seeing that Denmark beat Kazakhstan, I think 3-0 or something like that. So Bublik got done, I think not once, but twice in that one. So I'm not sure he's too high on confidence.
Maybe not then.
Someone who is high on confidence, I was going to say, over in Japan. I mean, what a tough draw Taylor Fritz has. Arthur Thiessen, round one.
Yes, he's the top seed there. Fritz is in the Tokyo event. Also 500, as you said. Hubert Hurkacz, second seed. He's back. Jack Draper's in the draw as well.
Nakashima Tiafoe.
Tommy Paul.
Pilic Nishikori. Surely that's the pick of round one.
That is a throwback.
Nishikori.
That's the US Open final.
Yeah.
From 2014.
Of course it is.
It is.
Wow.
10 years ago.
Wow.
Crazy.
Tabilo, your favorite to watch, Kim?
Yeah. Oh, Laver Cup star Tabilo.
Yes,
in action.
indeed. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Draper
Fritz
as well.
has got a good shout here. I'd love to see Draper pick up some form, after his exploits at the US Open. I'd love to see him
Popperin doing
carry
well.
on.
I think he's my pick for this one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, will
It's
he?
a good draw. Good draw.
After his exploits at the US, beating Djokovic. Let's see.
There's a lot to watch, isn't there, this week?
It's quite an interesting week, I think, to see how players do after the US Open. Have they played Davis
We're
Cup?
back
Have
to
they played Laver
reality,
Cup?
aren't we?
Back to the main tour events, absolutely. But that brings us to a close pretty much. But lots to catch up on, well, in the coming weeks once we know who's winning Beijing and Tokyo.
Yes, it feels like the Asian swing has well and truly arrived, and yeah, lots of tennis to come as we head into the final stretch of the season. Listeners, I hope you've enjoyed our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the action to come from the ATP and WTA tours.
We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all major podcasting platforms out there. So if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
You can also follow us on social media or email the show. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X, and the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. You can purchase Tennis Weekly merch at etsy.com/shop/Tennis Weekly Podcast. You can email the show tennisweeklypod@gmail.com to tell us never to play that game again, or you can check out our website tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back next week for another tour catch up. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll see you again soon.